All right. Welcome everyone to the next installment of the FCCA webinars. And we have a special guest here today and a very important guest, and I don't want to mix them up. So our very important guest and our special guest is Micky Arison, and we have Michele Paige too. So we have the duo back again. So this is going to be a special webinar. This is going to be a fun webinar. I'm gonna allow everyone to come in right now. We have a lot of people that have registered for this one. This is gonna be exciting. So Micky, how are you doing?
I'm surviving. I'm still here. I'm one of the very few people in the office, but with our empty parking lot, I can easily find a parking space.
It's easy to find parking. Okay, yeah, we were just there. I was there with Michele. There was plenty of parking. Michele, how are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I'm doing phenomenally. I have 7 horses and 12 dogs. Nothing has changed in my life. Everything is good.
All right, well, so we're going to get started today. And like I said, these webinars have been a voice to the industry. Over the last year and a half since we started doing them. We've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from a lot of the members and the industry partners. They love hearing everyone's perspective, and I think today is going to be really special. So we're going to start off right off the bat. And you know, it's been a new industry. A lot of people have left, a lot of new people have come in. So Micky, let's talk about the beginning of the FCCA. Why and how was the FCCA formed?
Well, probably very few people on the call remember or know exactly how it all started out. But basically, we were a luncheon club. The executives of the cruise lines that were based in Miami would have lunch together. I think it was every third Thursday of the month, something like that, once a month, and just got together to exchange ideas, talk, you know, house business, and we all lie to each other about how things are going, but we'd spend a nice hour or two having lunch at the old Everglades Hotel. Skip Weber, who was the chairman in those days, was retired, and so he was neutral, and that was it. It was basically a way to get together, because you have to remember, and the industry at that time was not Miami focused. It wasn't Florida focused. It was a global industry. The US pieces of it were based mostly in New York and San Francisco. But most of the cruise lines were based in Europe. I mean, there were companies like Eperotiki and Sunlines and Paquet. So we were meeting twice a year in Europe for the associations that we had there, and there was very little focus on Florida and the Caribbean. And so we got together just as a group because we had common interests in Miami. But again, we weren't, until we started later kind of getting into issues and hiring lobbyists, particularly for issues that arrived in Florida, because the other companies could care less about what was going on. And that's where it kind of started. We hired a lobbyist. The lobbyist got more in actually we wound up making him the president of the association to give him status. And that's how it all started. And we really didn't really progress until we fired that lobbyist and hired Michele, and then everything changed.
So you say everything changed at that point. And Michele, when you came in after this person was, let's say, released, what were the first things that you thought when you were coming in? I mean, Micky was right there with you.
Well, things were not in a good state, as Micky remembers. Relationship was at an all-time low. Things were in a very, very bad place. So I didn't know. I mean, I came from New York, where everything was under the marketing banner, and things were, you know, free flowing, and things were well established. So I went to Micky and I said, you know, I don't know if I'm going to stay. And he goes, well, you can't leave. And I said, well, yeah, I can. He goes, well, what if we name you president? I go, well, I don't know. And I don't, Mickey said, I can't say this, Tim, do you remember? But I said, well, if I do take over the head of the association, you have to give me your time. You have to be personally involved. And he and Richard Fain did for a long, long time. And that's really what set the FCCA afloat. And that's what made the difference in our relationships. Mickey was personally involved every step of the way. So kudos to Mickey for making the FCCA what it is today.
Also, Rick Sasso was chairman, wasn't he, at that time?
That is true. Rick was the first, he was at Celebrity and he was the first chairman of the FCCA for 10 years.
Not the first. The first was Skip Weber.
Well, the first chairman under me.
So, and Michele, when you came in and then now you look at the FCCA, what it's become, and also this question's directed to Mickey too, you see the FCCA's organization today, how has it changed? And what are some initiatives that you point out?
Basically, the FCCA hasn't really, all the various programs that we had, you've just made it better, Adam, and every single person at the FCCA has made all the core points that the FCCA has brought to life. And it's the relationship, and it's having Mickey, the consistency of the commitment that we have made. And Mickey, you are the man. I mean it sincerely.
Well, I appreciate that, but the reality is that it's changed enormously. I mean, the communications and the ability for you guys, Michele and Adam, and all the executives that are on the operations committees for all these years, the rotations of people, they've had the opportunity to communicate with various destinations, various ministers, in a way that was impossible when we first began. I mean, there was so little communication, and it's critical. I mean, obviously, I think you get into this later, but obviously with COVID and the demands that COVID brought us, it wouldn't have been possible. I mean, the reality is if every destination had their own protocols, we would have never been able to get restarted, because there's no way we could do a cruise to 3 or 4 different destinations with 3 or 4 different protocols. And so the committee that was formed, Michele, by you to make sure that we had some coordination, and not every destination fell in line, but most did, and made it possible for us to operate, was enormous. And we couldn't have operated without that effort from FCCA. So it's now, and especially then, but it is now just a critical part of the industry. And really the center, the focal point of the industry, where, as I said, in the early days, it was not, it was an outlier. And now it is a key focal.
Well,
Adam, if I could mention, I want to have a tribute to Owen Arthur, the then Prime Minister of Barbados, back when I came into the FCCA. Everybody needs a champion. And things, as Mickey said, we didn't have people that wanted to talk to us back then. We really had to gain the inroads to have a relationship, to have the communication. It was Owen Arthur that Barbados was the site of our first conference. He was the one, because of his open door policy, because of his commitment to the cruise industry, he really changed the tides. It might be a completely different situation in the Caribbean if he hadn't done that.
So, and Mickey, you just brought up COVID, and not that we want to talk about this, and this is not what the webinar is about, but it seems to be getting behind the world, and maybe popping up here or there, but it's getting behind us. Do you think, in your opinion, that cruising is finally returned? And what is your outlook on that as the industry?
Well, a lot has happened in the last 3 years. Obviously, COVID basically brought the industry to its knees. And now we're having, 1 foot at a time, having to get back up. And, as soon as we started to get back up back last summer, we got hit by the Delta wave, the Omicron wave, and then the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And these constant headwinds, these constant interruptions in our business, obviously the huge spike in fuel prices, the incredible inflation we're all dealing with. These have created tremendous challenges for the industry. And we're fighting our way through it. Every company is having to fight their way through it. But it is a challenge, and it's going to be, the challenge goes not just for the cruise lines, but it is for the destinations. Obviously, we talk about employment, we talk about purchasing and those kinds of things. Well, obviously, when it's become so expensive to bring people in from faraway places because the cost of air has just gone through, it's just economically makes more sense for us to do more hiring in the Caribbean. And we're all trying to do that. It makes more sense for us to purchase more in the Caribbean because the supply chains have been interrupted in so many ways. So there's great opportunity, but there's also great challenges with the extremely high fuel costs. Destinations that are further away from home ports are gonna be challenged because the companies, because they're trying to lower their carbon footprint and they're trying to save money on fuel, they're not going to go the distances and the speed that they used to. So destinations have to be creative. I mean, a good example of that is our guys from P&O. President of P&O has been in the Caribbean recently, and they're basing ships in the Caribbean. And so I think destinations further away from Florida, like Barbados, needs to focus on companies like P&O and Cunard and AIDA and MSC, those companies that are willing to base ships down there so that their carbon footprint and their fuel consumption is not as great as companies going south from Florida. So it's, the whole industry is kind of going through a bit of a metamorphosis. Did I say that right?
Metamorphosis.
Anyway.
I got it.
Anyway, and there are challenges, but there are opportunities, and hopefully we can meet the challenges and take advantage of some.
And Michele, I kind of gonna put that question to you now. Where do you think the cruise industry stands after hearing Micky talk about it, and where does the FCCA stand in that with the industry?
Well, as you know, Adam, we work for the FCCA member lines. We always stand ready to be at their disposal. We can only get our lead from the cruise executives themselves. They are really totally committed and very, very opportunistic concerning moving forward. And they're very enthusiastic about where they're going. And what we've always said with the destinations, and it's kind of echoing what Micky said, this is a time to rethink. To understand yourselves and what you offer to the cruise industry. And it's a new blank sheet of paper. So let's look at this together and look at how we can plan it better for where you are. You can't put a round peg in a square hole. So how do you look at this in terms of what is? And so I can just echo what my chairman says.
Yeah, and Micky, you just brought up on one of your last points there, talking about the possibility, or if we are in a recession, possibility of a strong recession. How do you think the cruise industry will handle that hurdle next?
I can only look to history. We have tended to handle it pretty well because the value of cruises. Especially those of you that have recently been on a cruise, the quality of food, the variety, the entertainment, all the aspects of a cruise vacation are such a great value when you compare, especially now in an inflationary environment, you know, the costs of hotel, restaurants, I mean, all those areas, prices have gone up dramatically. And we've had to deal with the cost of all those, our raw food costs. In some cases are up 30–40%. But we're not passing that on to the consumer because the overall cruise prices may be up a few percentage points here and there, but it's not up double digits, triple digits like some things, some elements of a vacation are today. So the value proposition today is greater than I can ever recall. So with that great value proposition, people in a recessionary environment tend to be more focused on value, more focused on being able to get the biggest bang for their buck. And so we should be, if we position ourselves right, and each company needs to do that, position ourselves in such a way that people understand the value. If they understand the value, we should be just fine.
And to add on to what Micky is saying, Adam, you've stayed at some extremely expensive hotels. All of a sudden, the second day, you realize you're not getting your bed made up. They're not, unless you ask. So you don't have that problem on a cruise ship. You're getting world-class service.
I've recently stayed at a number of, I won't name them, but what would be considered 5-star hotels, and they have tremendous labor issues. So it's like, hour and a half wait for room service. I mean, it's try to get a bellman. I mean, they just, no fault of their own. I mean, these are great companies that normally have very, very good service. But for whatever reason, at least in the US, but I saw this also in Europe. I was recently in Italy, and they're just having a tremendous time getting people back to work. As I said before, that's why our parking lot's empty. Just everybody wants to work from home. Well, you can't work from home if you're in a restaurant. You can't deliver the food from your home. So it's a difficult environment for a lot of aspects. And we're fortunate in that generally we had in the startup phase, we also had significant issues of getting labor back onto the ships. And also in the offices. And that's why, a lot of people complained about long hold times and all that. It just took a while to get people back, but the ships are now fully staffed. The products are as good or better than they ever were before. And so again, that puts us in a very competitive position versus other vacation options.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. So my kind of flip question to that is, say you weren't chairman of the FCCA and chairman of Carnival Corporation, PLC, but say you were a president or a prime minister of a country, what would you be doing now to strategically align yourself with your cruise partners if it was a flip situation?
Well, step one is communication. Step one is to be able to talk to the companies and find out what their needs are, and see if we can meet their needs either through education, training. You start off in the Caribbean with just the natural beauty of the beaches and the sunshine, and some destinations with fantastic, beautiful mountainscapes and so on. So you have this natural advantage, but it always comes down to people. Whether it's a cruise product or it's the landside product, it's always about the people and the friendliness, the service levels. And sometimes you just don't have people properly trained to do what they need to do. And if you can communicate with the cruise lines, either through FCCA or directly with partners that are already calling in your port, find out what they need. What do their guests want that you do have? What can you give them more? And how do you invest in your people to make sure that they deliver the kind of product that will make people want to come back? And again, number one thing is communication. Number one thing is to keep aware of what you need to do to make the guests want to come back and have a great time. I mean, it's all about people having a great time. They're on vacation. They don't want problems. They don't want obstacles. They want to have a good time. And if you can deliver them a good time, they're going to remember that and come back.
That's very true. And Michele, going off of what Micky's saying about communication, is coming out of COVID, the FCCA pivoted and we went to a task force, and now the task force is pivoted from the COVID conversation to employment, to purchasing. We revamped even the shore excursion committee. We have multiple committees. What does that mean to the communication level to a lot of new people in the industry now?
Well, as Micky said, it's all centers down on offering the passenger, the tourist, a phenomenal experience. But as you said, it's communication also within the destination. Back in the day when we had problem, I remember Micky's first comment to me, don't they understand the economic impact that the cruise industry delivers? And in actuality, that statement really propelled everything that the FCCA has ever done, was to communicate, was to be able to translate the opportunities of the cruise industry to our destination partners. And we talk about the Caribbean, but it's, you know, the FCCA is now responsible for the Caribbean, Central America, all of Mexico, and South America, excluding Brazil. So it's working with all of our destination partners, but it's also the communication within the destinations. There's a lot of tentacles within the destinations. If we're talking to the shore excursion providers, even those people that maybe don't even think they have a shore excursion, but the cruise industry wants authentic experiences. So it's being able to draw to the forefront all of the great things that that destination has to offer. And it's really telling the story of what makes that destination different, unique. You know, that's the whole thing. And then, as you said, Adam, it's talking about the employment opportunities. We want people that want to work on the cruise ship, that see that this is an opportunity for them to make money, invest in their destination, and then come back to the destination and be able to start a business, be able to be an entrepreneur. And the same thing with purchasing. It's communication. We're not going to go buy a bushel of tomatoes. We need the quantity that the cruise in is. So it's communication. It's an education process. Before anything ever happens, it's that communication. So Micky is absolutely right on all of the various bases.
All right, and switching gear here, because we don't have a lot of time left. We don't want to hold you more than 30 minutes. We always keep these webinars to the point. So we're going to get some other questions here. So Micky, obviously avid traveler, you've been around the world, but if you had to pick a cruise itinerary as your favorite and a cruise ship, they don't have to be the same. They can be two different. Which one would you pick? Because now we're going to get into more of the fun questions.
Micky, I wouldn't answer that if I were you.
Oh, come on.
I'll tell you, we just had the naming ceremony of Carnival Celebration. What day is today? It was Sunday. Today's Tuesday, right? So 2 days ago. And the ship was so amazing, so fantastic. Getting the itinerary, wherever she goes, I want to get on her. I was really disappointed. I couldn't sail because of commitments for the family for Thanksgiving. But the ship was so amazing. And on the same day as we're naming the Carnival Celebration, we're naming the Seabourn Venture in the ice in Antarctica. And you look at in the exact same day, you've got a super luxury expedition ship being named in the entire passenger base, standing on the ice, watching the naming ceremony. And here in Miami, having Kathy Lee singing "If They Could See Me Now" in the middle of the atrium. It was like, you know, at one of those two itineraries, wherever they are, wherever they're going.
Okay, so it's not the
We used,
itinerary.
we used to say, we used to say this in the early days, and you know, some of the destinations didn't like it. The ships like Carnival Celebration, the ship is the destination, and the ports are just, you know, topping on the cake. And you know, the ships are so amazing. But the point is that a ship like that comes to a destination with 6,000 passengers. And if that destination delivers a great product, a percentage of those people are going to come back. People, you know, they have a great experience, a beautiful day at the beach, or, you know, a beautiful scenic ride and over a mountaintop. They're going to say, you know, I want to keep experiencing this. So again, it's all about whether you're on the ship or in the port or on a shore excursion, that the experience is special and it makes people feel special and want it.
And so, Michele, I'm going to ask you the same question.
I know the answer, so there you go. You think I'm crazy?
Come on, you can pick one. All right, no, okay, so we're gonna skip Michele now. She's out of that one. So going back to that,
The problem when you're FCCA, right? You can't say Venice, right?
I can't say Carnival. I can't say Virgin. I can't say Royal. I can't say any of them.
well, Michele has an expression that she had all the cruise ships are her babies, and she can't pick one baby over the other. So I'll be fair with Michele and not put her on the spot with that one. But Micky, I'm going to go back to what you said though, and from our BRIA research, it's absolutely correct. It's about 50% of people expect to return to that same region after taking a cruise there. So that's an important number for a destination to take advantage of.
Well, I do that. I mean, I've been to places that I've liked on a cruise, and I've come back, you know, to visit that destination. You know, I tend to be somewhere in the Caribbean over the holidays every year. And there are particular islands that I've had great experiences at, and I visit those islands. And you know, I can name them. You know, I love going to the Exumas, to sail the Exumas. I love going down to St. Bart's for New Year's. I mean, there's so many varied destinations in the Caribbean that are magnificent you can enjoy. And I don't only do them on cruise ships. I go down there, enjoy them in other ways.
So before you go, I know you got to go. We only had you for a half hour. You know, I always end with this question on a, you know, basically a personal note. You know, what keeps you up at night, or what keeps you going the next day? What is your biggest joy right now in life?
You know what? At my age, it's waking up in the morning.
It's his grandchildren, Adam. His grandchildren.
That's true. That's true. The grandkids are. I'm fortunate enough to just have my first two grandkids in the last year and a half. That's been amazing. But
For a while there, I thought Mickey was going to kidnap a baby.
the keep me up at night is hard because, you know, I've been in the industry over 50 years, and I've experienced just about everything. I mean, I've experienced certain tragedies on ships that have had very difficult situations. I've obviously I never could have imagined shutting down an industry and having to send, you know, 90,000 crew members home, and the logistics of that. You know, so I've experienced it all, somehow survived it all, and we keep on trucking.
All right, well, we're going to end it right there because I know we had limited time. Micky, as FCCA chairman, chairman of Carnival Corporation, PLC, Michele as the CEO of the FCCA, I'd like to thank you both for sharing the last 30 minutes with us and our webinar viewers. And to the viewers out there, thank you for joining us. I know everyone is busy and the last 30 minutes have been great. And we look forward to hosting other executives and prominent people in the industry soon. So thank you, everyone.
Adam, thank you. Thank you, Michele. You guys do an incredible job.
Love you, Mickey. Happy holidays.
We love you guys too.
So,
Happy holidays to everybody.
all right, thank you, Mickey.